So you're saying, am I correct, that the need for freedom and freedom of the press is more important than any concerns we have about security and safety?
Let's assume that the government is right, and with all these measures that is taking, the United States is safer and the American people is safer, and so you're safe, and you feel safe, and it's correct.
Right.
Okay.
No big attacks.
No big attacks, or no attacks, no attacks. So, but is worth to pay the price to lose freedom and to lose privacy. You have the First Amendment. You have it's the only country in the world that has this kind of constitution.
Take that to me, tell me about that in terms of dictatorships and also some of the killings that I know in recent months have happened.
In the Inter-American Press Association, we have, among the worries we have about freedom of the press, two main that refers to Latin America. One is the violence against journalists. In the last 6 months, only 6 months, 14 journalists were killed in Latin America for doing their job. The worst thing is that you are not only killing a person, you are killing a person that had an idea or an information to report to the people. So you kill an idea and an information, and then the people is less informed about that. And then the other consequence is that the colleagues of these people, this journalist that was killed, became to self-censor.
To be scared for themselves.
Yes, of course. And then the public becomes less and less and less informed about public issues.
And what can we or do you think we should do about this?
In Mexico, for example, in Honduras, in some regions of Brazil, the journalists that are working there are heroes because they expose, every day they are exposing their lives just to report people what's going on with narco-traffickers and the corruption of the government. And sometimes they find that they are killed. But because in Cuba you don't have the possibility to create a newspaper, an independent or critic or a newspaper. The Constitution of Cuba says that there will be only state-owned newspaper and one only party, the Communist Party. So the Constitution says there's no freedom of the press here. The freedom of the press we have is inside the socialist model. If there is something different, it can go on. So, but now with these digital trends and innovations and advances, some Cuban very courageous people,
brave,
that live in Cuba under this dictatorship that has 53 years now. It's the longest dictatorship in the history of Latin America. China is a competitor in the US, and some parts of the Arab world don't have the values that we have in the US and in the Western world. So they think that economics can be a state-owned capitalism, but the political freedoms, the individual guarantees, the separation of powers, the independence of justice, these four things that are the main things for the Republican democracy are not in their minds. In China, there is no freedom of the press, and they are not allowed to create their own newspapers, and so that's a huge amount of people, And in the Muslim world, I will not say that all the Muslim people is against freedom of the press, but there are many groups and many countries, governments, where this is not well seen. And we have also in Latin America 5 or 6 countries that are doing like what I call democratic dictatorships. Ecuador, Nicaragua, Bolivia, and Argentina are countries that share this common characteristic. They get to the power, they arrive to the power, the governments, I'm talking about the governments. The governments arrive to the power after free and just elections, you know? So they are they have a legitimate origin. But once in power, they start to demolish all the principles that I have already told you are the main principles for the Republican democracy. So they start to change constitutions, approve very quickly new laws to control the Congress, control the justice, the judges, and of course attacking freedom of the press. Because the main objective is to remain in power.
Yes, exactly.
And to be reelected and reelected and reelected. You have Cristina, the family of the Kirchners in Argentina. You have Evo Morales in Bolivia. You have Rafael Correa in Ecuador. You had Chavez, and now his successor, Maduro, is the current president. So the main thing is to remain in power and to impose the society a new model where the values of a Republican democracy are over.
In your long history, your career, is there a particular story that's been your favorite or the most important to you?
Well, yes. During the years of the military dictatorship in my country, it was a rightist dictatorship. I ran a story about a politician that was prosecuted by the military, and the military wanted to kill him. And I found him in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, before the military were there in 1975. And I interviewed him, and I printed the interview, and my newspaper was closed by the military dictatorship. So we had to fight with that. Now there are some other countries that have to fight in the same way. So that's why it's so important for our Latin American journalists to have again the system of the United States shining as it shined 30 years ago.
A noble mission indeed. I appreciate talking to you very much. Claudio Paolillo, thank you so much for joining us today with World Denver Talks.
It was a pleasure for me, Gwen.
Thank you.
Thank you.